Like, he is. He's a fucking legend. Like, yeah, all he does is smoke cigarettes, drink Diet Coke, and eat candy.
Daily of putt-putt. That's right. I'm severely overweight and I have a gambling problem. What the fuck are you gonna do
beat
about
Tiger
it? The trick
Woods?
to sticking your
No,
balls.
didn't he beat Tiger Woods while he was drunk? I think it was even more than that. Yeah, or maybe he was drinking while he was doing the tournament. Yeah, exactly. The hungover. Okay, yeah. There you go. Always drunk.
And that hole is a gentle touch. I'm telling you, it's way harder to lose this game than it is to win it. Wow! Sunk it! Or the trick could be aiming your balls towards the audience and then cranking it as hard as you possibly can.
Nice.
Or the trick could be aiming on top of the hole, then cranking the ball in the opposite direction of the wind.
Oh.
Or the trick could just be not cranking the ball at all.
That's what I did.
Listen, the point is...
It's time for Lefties Losing It. Let's go to the Cannes Film Festival where the uber rich and famous gather to congratulate themselves about how special, brave, humble and inclusive they are and how they are at the forefront of fighting fascism. Here is a once great actor turned TDS sufferer, Robert De Niro.
In my country, we're fighting like hell for the democracy we once took for granted. And that affects all of us. That affects all of us here because the arts are democratic. Art is inclusive. It brings people together. Like tonight, art looks for truth. Art embraces diversity. And that's why art is a threat. That's why we are a threat to autocrats and fascists.
Yes, the film industry is so inclusive, Robert. You actors have such a perfect moral compass with your sick, sordid personal lives. Did you notice global warming hysteric Leonardo DiCaprio on stage there with De Niro, the dude who flies around the world in private jets and sails in massive yachts, but is really, really concerned about emissions? And as for being inclusive, well, the 50-year-old is not very inclusive of women over 25. Not in his dating life anyway. But let's get back to Robert De Niro's mad rant. Here he lies with gay abandon.
America's Philistine president has had himself appointed head of one of our premier cultural institutions. He has cut funding and support to the arts, humanities, and education. All these attacks are unacceptable. And this isn't just an American problem. It's a global one. And like a film, we can't just sit back and watch. We have to act, and we have to act now.
We have to act. We have to act now. It's amazing that Donald Trump, the fascist dictator, allows De Niro to defame him so easily. Why isn't he arresting him, putting him in jail? Isn't that what dictators do? And isn't that what we were told would happen? Remember when De Niro and fellow TDS sufferer Bill Maher was saying before the election what would happen if Trump won?
If he wins the election, you won't be on the show anymore. He'll come looking for me. There'll be things that happen that none of us can imagine. That's what happens in that kind of a dictatorship, which is what he said. Let's believe him, take him at his word.
I did from the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, I said from the very beginning, this guy is never going to concede power.
No, he hasn't conceded power. He's your president. And weren't you dining with him at the White House, Bill Maher? And somehow Robert De Niro is still not locked up. Here's another lefty losing it actor, Ben Stiller, who also has crazy fever dreams about Trump coming after him.
It's impossible not to be aware of the fact that people feel this, that, oh, wow, there can be retribution from the government if you say something wrong. And that's really scary. So just to even be thinking that way is, but, of course, I'm aware of it. I think everybody's aware of it.
Can someone tell Ben Stiller that it was the previous administration that went after grandmothers for posting funny memes and sought to have school moms concerned about trans indoctrination in classrooms, sought to have them labelled domestic terrorists? All these clowns do is lie. If he was really genuinely worried about repercussions from the Trump administration, I can tell you Ben Stiller would be keeping his mouth shut. One thing you can say about Hollywood, they ain't brave. Here's another actor, Pedro Pascal. When he's not signing letters accusing Israel of genocide, he's eager to tell you that being against the deportation of illegal immigrants means he's on the right side of history.
I want people to be safe and to be protected, and I want very much to live on the right side of history. And I'm an immigrant. My parents are refugees from Chile. I myself is a refugee. We fled a dictatorship, and I was privileged enough to grow up in the U.S.
You know, in a world of miserable, hysterical clowns like De Niro and Stiller, pays to be a Jerry. Here is Jerry Seinfeld treating the loopy left with the disdain they richly deserve.
I'm ready to put on a show. You, Jerry Seinfeld, free Palestine. Free Palestine. You, Jerry Seinfeld, you support genocide of Palestinian children. You rabid dog. Free Palestine. Free Palestine.
I love the kid blowing a kiss there at the end. You know who is much funnier than many of these triggered comics? It's 45 and 47, yes. POTUS was again cracking jokes earlier today, describing how he came to secure the Olympics for America after his 2016 election triumph.
When I spoke to this gentleman, who was obviously Scandinavian, seriously Scandinavian, and very nice, I couldn't get him off the phone because he was so starved for love. He just kept, I must have had him for 2 hours. I couldn't. I said, sir, I have to go. I'm president-elect. Yes. All I said to him, yes, 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 we will take good care. They wanted to know that if they choose us for the Olympics, will we treat them nicely? And I said, we're going to treat you like so well, like you've never been treated.
But it didn't stop at the Olympics. Trump also secured the World Cup for America, and because of the 2020 election shenanigans, he'll be president when both events take place.
And we got the World Cup, I got them both, and I said, man, I won't be president. I got the Olympics and the World Cup, and I won't be president. And they're going to forget that I got them. Nobody's going to mention it because, you know, a little bit, that's the way life is. And then they rigged the election. And then I said, you know what I'll do? I'll run again and I'll shove it up their ass. And then realized, I said, you know what? I got the Olympics, I got the World Cup, and I got the 250s. Look at the way this works out. So if they would have left us alone and wouldn't have cheated on the election and wouldn't have rigged it, I would have been retired right now. I would have been happily doing something else. And instead they have me for 4 more years. Can you believe it?
And when it comes to Trump, we know that the opinion polls always understate his popularity, but the polls are nevertheless turning, and even CNN is forced to acknowledge that unhappy news. Unhappy for them.
I think it's time for a bit of a reality check, right? We were going to late April. Donald Trump's approval rating, his net approval seemed to be falling. He seemed to be adios amigos. People were writing his political obituary. He is rising from the dead. Look at this. Hello, Trump's net approval rating among voters. This is the Reuters Ipsos polling. Look at this. In late April, he was 8 points underwater. But look at where he was in the most recent poll among voters. He's up 7 points.
Let's bring in Sky News contributor Kosha Gator. Kosha, it's not just the Ipsos poll, as CNN noted in that segment. His approval rating is up across numerous polls, and you can kind of see why with the Middle East.
Surveillance video shows the moment 10 to 12 teens ambushed 3 victims in what Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch described as a Wolfpack-style robbery. All of them are repeat offenders.
So this video of gang members assaulting police and robbing people has many New Yorkers totally shocked. But they shouldn't be, as this is the very same gang that's been quietly taking over Manhattan for the last 365 days. And not only are all of these repeat offenders in the country illegally, as a sanctuary city, New York's laws actively help them evade deportation while continuing what some are saying is an unstoppable crime wave.
Now to the arrest of 5 young members of an immigrant gang by New York cops who were apparently trying to stop a Wolfpack-style mugging in Times Square. Police are still searching for 3 more suspects in all this. The youngest in this gang of thugs, just 12 years old, and cops say he has a history of arrests.
The suspects in these crimes are in large groups. They take off with things like wallets, phones, and bags. Many of the suspects in these crimes live in city-run migrant shelters, and their average age is just 15.
The NYPD's chief of detectives says undocumented criminals as young as 11 years old are carrying out retail robberies and committing crimes on scooters, snatching people's jewelry, watches, and cell phones at gunpoint and knife point. Over 300 incidents last year, more than 800 so far this year.
They're all said to be members of Tren de Aragua, the violent Venezuelan gang. Shortly after these latest arrests, ICE agents attempted to question the teens at the Midtown South precinct and were turned away.
So New York is being taken over by teenage bandits who've been committing crimes ever since they came to America. But what nobody's talking about is this unstoppable gang of super soldier criminals are the product of 2 of New York's progressive policies. And the first of those is our sanctuary city policy, which allows gang members and dangerous individuals to live here without any worry of deportation, which explains how these thugs can walk out of their Midtown Manhattan shelters and commit crimes so easily and so regularly. But sanctuary policies alone don't tell the whole story. The other problem is New York City does not treat teenage criminals as adults, which is why they can keep committing the same crimes over and over again without facing any consequence. And these crimes keep happening on a regular basis right here in the middle of New York City, Times Square, where you can't walk more than 2 feet without seeing signs telling you how safe this place is supposed to be. Except it's not, and anyone here could be targeted by these criminals who law enforcement knows are out there roaming around right now. And that brings us to the real reason why this gang is such a problem. Our laws not only created them, but our humanitarian asylum crisis continues to enable them. Because as a sanctuary city, the 2 hotels these thugs operate out of, the Row Hotel and the Roosevelt Hotel, ban police from coming inside, unless they have a warrant for a specific person, who in this case would be a teenager recruited by upper-level gang members, specifically because they can shoplift and steal as much as their gang demands, and there's no law that can stop them. And as you're about to see, this signals to criminals who want to live in America as long as possible and never get deported that they too should come right here to America's largest sanctuary city. So here we are in Times Square, which should be one of the safest places in America because we've got signs all over the place telling people to be on their best behavior, like this sign right here, which expressly prohibits disorderly conduct. Yet this is the same part of town where pedestrians were robbed by a gang and police were assaulted.
Investigators say the teens confronted their victims in the heart of Times Square, then surrounded them. This video was posted to social media and shows 2 police officers being attacked while trying to stop the robbery.
The officers engaged the group and attempted to break up what appeared to be a Wolfpack-style robbery. Instead, they were ambushed.
So once you understand how unbelievable this recent event was, you'll also realize why New York City will quickly become the criminal capital of America if it hasn't become that already. Right now, you've got gang members singling people out and surrounding them in massive groups. Groups that are so large, no escape is possible. And what are these victims to do? They've got no choice but to surrender and hand over their belongings. In spite of the fact that there is a police station here, along with the offices of some of the biggest news organizations in America, whose local affiliates have been televising this gang's reign of terror ever since it started 1 year ago. A reign of terror our police, sadly, are powerless to do anything about.
4 are under arrest. 3 others are being sought tonight. One of them posted this picture to social media while inside the precinct, flashing gang signs in defiance.
Those individuals, instead of showing remorse, decide to take a selfie throwing up gang signs.
So right over here, this is the exact spot where those teenagers went on their crime spree. But my question is, what exactly do they have to be remorseful about? Yes, they obviously did something wrong, but in their minds, since there are no consequences and these are all repeat offenders who keep getting let out of jail, how bad can it really be? Our city is telling them that their actions aren't that big of a deal. Winding up in the back of a police car, that's just not that big of a deal to these guys. They've experienced that before and nothing's come of it. All thanks to New York's decriminalization policies, which let people off the hook time and time again for offenses that anywhere else in America would land you in the slammer. But it gets even worse because all of these criminals came into America without permission.
How the teens managed to use a cell phone while in custody is being investigated. They're all said to be members of a Times Square offshoot of Trende Aragua, the violent Venezuelan gang. Investigators say the youngest is 12 and the oldest 19. The gang's 37 alleged members have been arrested.
Now you'd think this would be a giant I told you so moment for the city of New York, because if you're going to harbor federal fugitives and you're going to decriminalize the actions of people under the age of 18, you've got a recipe for a disaster. And nobody should be surprised that criminals have figured out this is how our laws work and have found a way to exploit this by deliberately recruiting people who can commit crime and never be punished. And in New York, it's the law that these criminals who are attacking groups of people have their cases automatically sent to family court because of their age, which gives adult gang members the ability to recruit people who are essentially super soldiers with get-out-of-jail-free cards that never expire. And now we've got a situation where the adult Trende Aragua gang members New York has moved into its asylum shelters are recruiting in those very same places. All the teenagers that live there, these are the folks that are joining this dangerous gang.
Make no mistake, this is not low-level crime. It's organized violence carried out by gang members that we've already taken off the streets for preying on New Yorkers. It's what happens when repeat offenders are allowed to cycle through arrest after arrest without meaningful accountability. It's what happens when there are no real consequences.
So that is the chief of police, and she's right. The no consequences environment here has created the nightmare that is unfolding before us. But it gets even worse because ICE tried to deport these people, and guess what happened?
Shortly after these latest arrests, ICE agents attempted to question the teens at the Midtown South precinct and were turned away.
The NYPD does not participate in civil immigration enforcement.
Immigrants' rights advocates.
Well, I guess the NYPD can participate in rearresting these guys again and again, as they've been doing, because you heard it right there. No consequences, and these guys are being protected by New York's sanctuary city policies. And it's maddening to anybody with even an ounce of common sense that criminals can be attacking people in what is supposed to be the safest place in America, only to get released after being arrested before ICE can even pick them up, essentially allowing them to stay on the streets forever. And activists are so proud of this. They think every single time gang members get released before being deported, that they've somehow figured out a way to stop Donald Trump and his...
You'll need a top-notch team to win this one.
If I notice how unproductive it is to make everything about identity politics, it doesn't make me a Republican, it makes me an honest broker. If I notice all the oversensitivity and the cancel culture and the victim culture and the pointless white self-loathing and all this kind of, forcing complex ideas about race and gender on kids who can't spell yet. And I'm like, Don't get what? Abolish the police? Tear down statues of Lincoln? Maybe give communism another shot? Get rid of the border control? Get rid of capitalism? White supremacy has never been worse? Gender is always just a social construct? It's okay to have penises in the women's swimming pool in women's prisons?
I know why I'm in this
it's not
fight.
that I'm old.
What made
It's
you
that your
crawl out from
ideas
under
are
your rock?
stupid.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hope all's good wherever you are. I have a clip I want to share with all of you of Bill Maher absolutely cooking the woke progressive left. He was on this panel at the Aspen Ideas Festival, whatever that is. And he dropped some truth bombs. And I want to tell you why I love this clip, but I'll save it till the end of the video. Let's go.
A lot of ignorance. People say to me all the time, you make fun of the left more than you used to. Yeah, because they're dumber than they used to be. If I had to find a reason why I thought I was right about doing this, it happened at October 7th. I mean, people demonstrating for Hamas. For Hamas? It's like rooting for the planes on 9/11. That's a joke, for fuck's sake. I mean, come on, lighten up, the diversity of the crowd, by the way. I tell you, Aspen has really done a great job with that. It's a fucking plan meeting of its own.
Okay, all right. So, this is where we pivot, okay? So I think we can agree that liberals are concussed with wokeness.
When people say you make fun of the...
See the diversity of the crowd.
We don't have to make a rally out of it, but we could. No, I mean, when they say you make fun of the left, or yes, because, you know, they went right. Obviously, so did the Republicans. But, you know, 5 years ago, nobody was demonstrating for Hamas and stuff like that. I'm just going to go where the money is as a comedian. But that doesn't make me a Republican. They went nuttier, the left, and then they blame me for noticing it. If I notice how unproductive it is to make everything about identity politics, it doesn't make me a Republican. It makes me an honest broker. If I notice all the oversensitivity, and the cancel culture, and the victim culture, and the pointless white self-loathing, and all this kind of, you know, forcing complex ideas about race and gender on kids who can't spell yet. When I notice all of it, it doesn't make me a Republican.
Don't mess with the amazing Spider-Man!
If you do something goofy, I don't care where you are on the spectrum, I'm going to call you out. I speak for a different group of people. I call them normal people who just want to get back to common sense. And if you do something stupid, or say something stupid, I'm going to call you out. I speak for Democrats, independents, and
So now you say immigrants. You know, I think one of the missions of your comedy is to break through, you know, people's political and cultural thought bubbles. You know, everyone has a sort of Praetorian guard of ideology in front of everything they think and say. Is it possible they actually change anyone's mind? I mean, have you ever changed anybody's mind?
No. It's funny, I have, but not about how. I don't think you can do it about how. It's very hard. You know, I see this on my podcast several times when I've had somebody on who I know is a Trumper. I had Dana White on here. I know he's not the only one. And, you know, my podcast isn't supposed to be political, but, you know, Trump is everywhere. Sometimes you wind up talking about him, and I can see
your powers are mine!
This
is real firepower!
After 5 minutes, I say, let's just talk about something else. Because I'm never going to bring you over to my point of view. You're not going to come to the other point of view. Let's just talk about something else, and then we do, and we start laughing, and we part friends. That's what we have to do on the record. You can't talk, you know, I say it all the time. You can hate Trump. You can't hate everybody who likes him. It's half the country. You showed, was Ted Cruz, I think I heard at the beginning of this video? Okay, Ted Cruz, he's a United States Senator. When I have people like that on, Bill Barr, the Attorney General of the United States, had him on, I get emails from people who are like, basically their thought is, this guy, you had him on the show, when he walked out, why didn't you punch him in the face immediately? They hate me that I don't hate people.
Right.
That has got to stop.
Sure, but maybe people do want to keep hating. I mean, what is that about?
Yeah, it's fun because it fills the empty part of their soul.
This is the amazing Spider-Man!
Destroy anybody, no matter how powerful your tweets Democrats are.
I know for deplatforming people, and you've said that a lot, but do you draw any lines around this and other guests that you say no to?
Only if they're boring, or I wouldn't have David.
Yeah.
I don't know what he can add to the conversation. The Democrats keep running on this one idea, saying to the American people, you can't think you'll be worse than Donald Trump, and they keep saying, yes, we can. Yes, we can. And I understand that. I do. I would never vote for Donald Trump, but yeah, when it's funny when I talk to my friends who are around my age, 40. And they are always bitching to me about their like super and everything is like, you don't get it, Mom. That's old thinking. And I'm like, don't get what? Abolish the police? Tear down statues of Lincoln? Maybe give communism another shot? Get rid of the Border Patrol? Get rid of capitalism? White supremacy is never worse. Gender is always just a social construct. It's okay to have penises in the women's swimming pool in women's prisons. Oh, no, it's not that I'm old. It's that your ideas are stupid. And
well, okay, so you're very.
So I'm not trying to be mean to the millennials or the Gen Zs, but when I see them with their Queers for Palestine banners,
I know that's the one that really gets to you.
I'm out. You might not like me all the time. You might not agree with everything I say, but you can have complete faith that I'm going to say what I really think. And very often it's things that other people are just afraid to say, or are thinking themselves.
Yeah, no,
so they just
you say that the thing that people are thinking, it is absolutely.
Yeah, and they just like to hear someone else say it and go, oh, I guess I'm not crazy.
You didn't have that sort of the anger that fuels so many of the comedians I mentioned.
Well, I don't know if I still anger. There's this cognitive dissonance that goes on in this country where people think it's just so horrible. People come up to me in restaurants all the time in Los Angeles, nice restaurants. Bill, what are we going to do? And I'm like, look around, finish your $800 meal. Why don't you do that? Is life really that horrible? Just realize how lucky you are and how good your life is. I just walked around Aspen. It's not that horrible out there in America. Okay?
Well, that is certainly
It's
true.
not corny or conservative to say you're lucky to live in this country right now, and you should be aware of that.
And yet.
I think you know quite enough
So
about
Marjorie
chaos
Taylor
as
Greene
it
has
is.
called for a national divorce, right? Yes, so
Protective
as the
shield.
country's de facto couples therapist, how do you see this
battle
rising
starts in
rank
5,
playing out, and who
4,
gets you in the divorce?
3,
Well, let's not get divorced, is what the first thing I would say. This is a terrible idea. We have to learn to talk together again, to sit together again, to mingle. People who don't agree with each other, to mingle. I mean, if I ask this crowd, any Trump people here in this crowd? I bet you there are. But they're too intimidated to either speak up or raise their hand. That's not a good way to go. This is not a way to do it, to operate America like a prison yard where we have to be each in our own tribe. We have to talk together, mingle together, we're all two in our own bubbles, in our own media silos. And that's not the way we bring this country together. And I don't want a national divorce. Well, you hear a lot of this talk. Civil war, let's do this thing. Let's not. Sounds fun, but it's a little impractical. It's not like the first Civil War, where we're neatly divided on two sides of the country. We're all marbled in with each other now. And the truth is, there are a lot of good Republicans in this country. You may not agree with them, get over that. People have different backgrounds, they have different values, they're brought up differently than you are. Doesn't mean they're bad people. You have to remember that America is a family, and the definition of family is people who hate each other without resorting to violence.
One thing I like about Bill Maher, I like that he's honest. I don't even have to agree with him. Sometimes he says he's honest about something. It's something I fully disagree with, but I note that to him, he's being honest. And he stayed pretty much true to himself the whole time. He's been famous with his everything. He was famous when I was a little kid. I actually think he's got more in common with the MAGA Republicans right now than he has in common with his own party.
The moon haunts you!
But what I really appreciate is that he calls out his own party. He's somebody who says what he says, and he's honest about it. He calls stuff out, which is what on our side we are starting to lose. And I get pushback when I say this, but nobody wants subscribers or followers or get some dislikes on their videos. So nobody ever says anything wrong, and not even something wrong, but nobody ever criticizes or questions what Trump and his administration are doing, and that is a problem. You have to ask questions. I'm somebody who does ask questions, and I am happy. I have my great people in my comment section. I am happy to be proven wrong by all of you. Happy to. I'm here to learn. I am not a poli-sci guy. I'm not a geopolitics expert. I do this because I care about these issues, and I like talking about it with all of you. But for example, I love Benny. I've met Benny. He's great. He's been a hero. I've got millions of followers. Super nice guy. Everybody loves him. But what Benny doesn't do is he will not say anything about anyone. For example, I will say Pam Bondi is someone I don't care for. I don't care for because I'm a Second Amendment guy. I'm a pro-gun guy. I'm very proud of that. And she is. She's been before. She's tried to remove guns. She's very anti-Second Amendment. She's Israel first. She used to work for the Qataris. This whole thing with the Epstein files. Ghislaine Maxwell is still alive in prison. We can just go ask her. We don't have to wait for this FBI because they're telling us, the FBI are hiding the files. They're corrupting the files. Really, I don't buy it. It doesn't have to smell test to me, but nobody wants to say that. Everybody just goes with the story that she's saying. I don't need her to get Fox News 110 times a week. I need her to get shit done. So I'm critical of her. I get some pushback in my comment section, but I'm fine with that. Again, I'm happy to be proven wrong, but I think it's important that we talk about these issues. And just what Omar was saying, we're like a family in America. I remember when I was growing up, my family, who's very conservative, had more liberal friends that would have voted for Clinton. And they all got along, even though they disagreed politically on most issues. But we're not there anymore. We're so far divided. Again, I blame the left for this. They went so far the other way that it's hard to meet in the middle with these progressives. Anyway, just something to think about. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash that thumbs up button for your boy. Consider subscribing to the channel. Help it grow. Catch you in the next one. Peace out.
30 seconds before you attack. Get ready.
No one escapes hell.
Oh, I did. Several times. Lovely torture machines. Doom has overreached, and we must...
Joining me now is author of international bestsellers, including The War on the West and The Strange Death of Europe, one of the finest thinkers of his generation, Douglas Murray. And Douglas, you are right now under attack. The left in the UK are trying to cancel you. They want you banned from TV appearances. They want you to stop writing for publications like The Spectator. But it hasn't stopped there. Led by the likes of Alistair Campbell, he's a supposed journalist he and others are wanting you arrested and charged for offensive commentary, also known as telling the truth. What is going on in the UK, and do you fear that police are scrutinising your
Supernova?
Caused this is the fact that I've used my eyes in recent decades, and I've also used my pen. And I have described what has happened to my country of birth, Great Britain, and the continent of Europe, and indeed the wider developed world, challenges that come through illegal and legal mass migration. That's not all migration, but illegal and legal mass migration. Interestingly enough, this interview that seems to have caused this breakdown from Alistair Campbell was one in which I simply said, what I describe in The Strange Death of Europe as happening is indeed what is now happening. And I said this as people don't know don't mess with me! I never wanted to write on the book, and it gives me absolutely no importing very large numbers of people, illegally and legally, from very different cultures, into a society that totally failed to integrate them, will lead to massive problems, including at some point a massive backlash. Now, it's interesting that Alistair Campbell should have been one of the ones to start this pile on. Of course, Alistair Campbell was part of the Labour government that in the late 90s and early 2000s massively ramped up illegal and legal migration into the UK. He's actually one of the architects of this problem, a problem which one of his colleagues at the time described as being deliberate. One of his colleagues said he came out of meetings about this issue with a very clear feeling that the Labour government of Tony Blair wanted this mass movement of people into the UK to, quote, rub the right nose in diversity. Well, of course, all these things had unexpected consequences. But Alistair Campbell is one of the people responsible for them. I'm only responsible for pointing out the facts and the lamentable situation that he got our country into. There's a couple of other things very quickly, Rita. Of course, this man, Campbell, is best known for his lying dossier about WMD in Iraq, which sounds Britain and other countries into the Iraq war. So if he had any kind of sense of decency, he would have disappeared from public life a long time ago. But he was also, of course, the person who hounded Dr. David Kelly to suicide. And that's one of the really interesting things about Alistair Campbell. He's an unbelievable bully and a hack. And one of the things about most hacks and bullies of his time, he thinks that he can hide behind, as he always does, the claim that he himself is very mentally fragile. One of the interesting things about that is he can chase people like David Kelly to suicide, but if you criticize Alistair Campbell for his frequent bursts of utter insanity, he says that you are using his mental health against him. He's a totally sick individual on every possible level. I make no apology for pointing out the terrible things that he has experienced in my country.
Well, your greatest crime appears to be that you were right. You wrote about this years ago. You warned about what was going to happen in the strange death of Europe. You were right when you warned of the unrest that would come in books like The Madness of Crowds and The War Against the West. And as the great Thomas Sowell wrote, people will forgive you for being wrong, but they will never forgive you for being right. And what you talked about, that mass migration, we've got that discussion happening right here in Australia with the record numbers coming in legally. But if they're not assimilating, if they don't share your values, as we've seen in the UK, you're going to have these problems, and just trying to stomp it out with two-tier policing and a justice system, Douglas, isn't going to solve the underlying issue.
No, absolutely not. I mean, as I've said for many years, the mass movement of people often who dislike the culture they're moving into intensely, and that always amazes me. I don't understand why people would move to societies that they dislike very much, but large numbers of people do, mainly just because they want to be in a system which can reward them at least to some extent financially, either through welfare or through the economy that works far better than the countries that they fled from. But if you bring people from very strong cultures with very strong ethnic identities and religious identities into countries of completely apologetic, kowtowed, self-shamed and embarrassed about their past, as is the story that has been pushed on the people of Australia in recent years, as has been the story pushed on the people of Britain, Europe and America in recent years. You don't have a hope of integration. So yes, all of this stuff is absolutely predictable. It doesn't require a prophet. It just requires people with their eyes open and a willingness to tell the truth. And I hope that people do have their eyes open and continue to tell the truth, as I will. And I'm not going to be intimidated by any of these people who should have so much guilt on their consciences. I would be surprised if they dare show their face.
Along with this, the other great enemy left right now seems to be Elon Musk, particularly amongst the political media executives class. Look at this, the deranged piece in The Guardian, where else, with the headline, "You know who else should be on trial for the UK's far-right riots? Elon Musk." That was the headline, and the piece goes on to call Musk one of the world's most prolific enemies of this assault against free speech in the UK is really quite sinister, and I've got to say, effective. Of course, it's not going to silence the likes of Elon Musk, but the average person will refrain from posting something on their Facebook page when they see people being arrested for online posts for things that are considered offensive, not just threatening or abusive, but just offensive. It seems to be a line that you can't cross.
Yeah, including retweeting videos of things that have happened. The interesting thing about Jonathan Friedland of The Guardian, he's a very obscure figure. He's not at all known outside of a small amount of the left wing in the UK. But of course, to think that somebody like him would have the audacity to claim that the British authorities should arrest an American citizen. I mean, I don't know if Jonathan Friedland knows his history. I assume he does. He should know that America citizens will not, in fact, be under the writ of British law. And thank goodness Elon Musk isn't. And thank goodness he has the guts to continue, like a number of the rest of us, to say what is the truth. The interesting thing, by the way, about two things to say about Jonathan Friedland in this ridiculous piece. One is that Jonathan Friedland actually, after noticing the success of the Da Vinci Code and other sort of rather low boilerplate novels, started writing novels himself under a pseudonym. And one of them, published in 2017, is an extended wet dream about the idea of the assassination of President Trump. It's extremely open. That's the only skill of the book, such as it is that it's an excitable book for people who would love to see Donald Trump getting assassinated. On that principle, of course, perhaps the American authorities ought to ask the expedition of Jonathan Friedland for writing a crappy genre novel under a pseudonym in which he dreamed of the assassination of President Trump. Of course, it would be ridiculous to do so because nobody would read his book. But the other thing to be said about the people is that they just have this totalitarian, authoritarian instinct which they just can't get rid of. They think everything should always go their way. They think they should be sensitive to the powers get. And the reason why you see so much of the media running against Elon Musk is that they recognize that his platform, Twitter, is beating all of them, or most of them, in all of the states, the media, which around the world. And that's very scary for some of these old media who can't keep up and don't have very many videos like The Guardian. But you know, it is a very important thing you mentioned there, Lisa, that in actual fact, and Rowan Atkinson no less said this in a speech 11 years ago, it's perfectly possible, you see, that people like me, billionaires like Elon Musk, will be able to get through this era and will survive it, and I certainly plan to, and I'm sure and know that Musk does as well. But what about, as you say, the person who does not have the platform that I have, or the means that Elon Musk has? What about them, when, as is happening all the time at the moment in the UK, police forces that have not solved one burglary, yes, you heard that right, not one burglary in recent years, are knocking doors and arresting them for Facebook, for retweeting things. Sure, there are some people who've said some horrible things and disgraceful things in recent weeks. Oh my, the priorities of the British police. You know, they are really treading in very, very dangerous already. It turns out, the rest of the public you can't trust them to solve burglary. Would I trust them to police my speech? No, I don't think so.
No. And the treatment you're receiving, the treatment Elon Musk is receiving is what Donald Trump has been copping for some years now, and his 2-hour chat with Elon Musk had a lot of the media triggered. It did reach an enormous audience despite having technical issues at the start. But look at some of the media coverage we were treated to. This is from USA Today. Starts with this line: for a fascism-curious billionaire who loves cuddling up to right-wing loons. And it got progressively worse from there, Douglas. Trump's called the media the enemy of the people, and sadly it seems there are many in the industry who seem desperate to live up to that tag.
I mean, these are just dying entities. I mean, USA Today is such a failing newspaper. It's as thin as a loo roll. And
Pick your hero.
It's just
or
an
villain.
unbelievable
I'm not
rag
judging.
now, and almost no information in it unless you want to follow the baseball, which lots of people do. But in terms of news, it's just the worst possible way to absorb news. But they just have an agenda, and they just show it more and more. They describe Elon Musk as a fascist. They describe the former president of the United States, maybe the next president, as just a right-wing loon. And you know, these people, you can write their headlines and their articles before the event occurs, and I'm sure some of these people do.
I may be powered by chaos.
30 seconds before you attack. Get ready.
Now, a disappearing act. I don't need telepathy to know what you're thinking, am I? Oh? Am I that obvious? You hate me because your version of me almost decimated the mutant population.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hope all's good wherever you are. Hope you're having a terrific Monday so far. In this video, we're going to take a look at the latest episode of Brilliant Idiots with Andrew Schultz and Charlemagne. I'll listen to this whole thing so you guys don't have to, because trust me, this was a struggle. They talk about immigration laws. They're going to talk about the plane gift from Qatar, the Constitution. Let's get it with the first part.
I know immigration is a problem. I'm not for a second saying we don't have to address that, but when you see stuff like that,
yeah, it's heartbreaking. We're emotional.
I'm like, you say, who were the Nazi guards? Who were the fucking slave catchers tracking down slaves? Yeah, I wouldn't. You're ripping.
Got to start somewhere.
You're ripping mothers away.
I think you do a disservice to what we've experienced during. And I think you're like that. And then I think that you do a disservice to what slaves experienced.
But what Charlotte says is true. It did. Yes, the first day in 1938 or whatever.
Yeah.
And then not enough people said stuff, and it escalated and escalated and escalated, and you got where you're going.
I saw a mom who took her two sons who had been going through the process of getting their papers. They were going to the regular, I guess, check-ins or whatever that they have to do. Yeah. Snatch the two sons up. Yeah. Listen,
we got to do something, but we have the money to do it a different way. Is what I'm saying.
Yes, it is heartbreaking. There's no question. It is heartbreaking. You could make the argument, or they would make the argument, that these people are here illegally. They're breaking the law being here, whereas simply being Jewish in Germany in the late 1930s shouldn't have been illegal. These were German citizens that were being in the same thing with slaves. You could make the argument, I guess slavery was legal at the time. So
it was illegal to leave the plantation.
Yeah, it was illegal, but it was also the slavery itself is this immoral, deplorable institution. I don't even know if it's a modern case, but like, what is it? Opposing like you have a moral obligation to fight back against immoral laws, something like that. I'm kind of butchering it, like, you have a moral obligation. What is it? You have a moral obligation. Bastion. Cedric Bastion. Yeah, see? Listen, here's the thing. I just want to know, are we in a post-constitutional disaster? Is the Constitution...
Judge, jury, executioner!
I think it's very scary. A week ago, last Sunday, I'm watching the news. I'm watching the Constitution. I just see him say, he uphold the Constitution. It's like... What's the nonsense? They were talking about the deportation stuff. He was like, I don't know about that whole Constitution. And then he asked again, is it the president's job to hold the Constitution? He's like, I don't know. Listen, he has to realize that saying a statement like that is incredibly dangerous. So he could go, well, I didn't exactly mean it like that. The reality is, it doesn't exactly matter how you meant it. You said a statement that people are going to not need to look into the intention or context of. You shouldn't say, I don't need to uphold the Constitution.
And he said it before on the campaign trail. He was like, no, this was 2020. Terminate the Constitution, overthrow the results of the election.
It's just we're in, I mean, look, as someone who's followed politics for 40 years very closely, if any president had said anything even hinting at that in the past, it's over.
That's what I'm saying. Who cares?
It's a disqualifying event. Like, you're out.
You know what I have
true, because they did it. Like, Lincoln did it. FDR did it. So it's like, whether you say it or not.
Well, you would say FDR did it in wartime, right?
So it's okay then?
Well, I don't think it's okay, but that would be the argument. And what Trump is saying right now is within the context of illegal immigration. And I'm sure that's how he would frame it. What I'm saying is,
Shit ain't in the context of nothing else.
yeah, but what I'm saying is, with him, he's always testing just to see what he can get away with. Let me try that. Oh, no pushback? All right, let me go 4 more steps. This is why it's so dangerous. This is why you have to keep bitching and yelling. This is why people have to keep saying stuff.
I will say this though, situations like this giving you faith in people. And I tell you what, I don't have faith in the government, but I have faith in people. I see Ken Shapiro speaking. And I see Candace Owens speaking. And I see the Rogan speaking.
I even gave that woman talk. She spoke out.
Nikki Loma spoke out about this. Like, that to me is you care about the Constitution, as you should.
Mothers are actually not getting separated from their children in any way, shape, or form. And this is something that I've said many times on this channel, and I'll say it again. When a U.S. president has to battle his own government to defend the American people, the enemy isn't foreign, it's domestic. The enemy that we have, our biggest threat right now, is not Russia, not China, is these democratic judges and these neocons. Trump's out there doing the will of the American people who voted for this stuff. We can't get these laws passed. We can't get these bills passed. The least amount of bills passed in forever for a president. Mothers are not getting separated from their children. Children can go with the mothers and come back later. If these children are left to be American, if they have birthright citizenship, because I don't think Trump is going to proactively, go back and change the birthright citizenship. We have it already. I don't actually think that's going to happen. It might. Should it? Sure. But I don't think that's going to happen. So these kids can come back later when they're 18. They can apply for their parents to come back. But right now, you can leave your kids with their family members. That's an option. If you want them to stay in America, or you can live here. You're not being separated forcefully. The American people voted for this. This was the biggest thing in the election, was the economy and the border. The birth rate in America is proper trash, and the Democrats decided we'll just let everybody in to cancel that out so we can actually get more voters in that'll vote for us. And these people, not to be a dead horse, but a lot of them, when you let in 15 million people, you're not going to get all great people. They got to go. They got to go. And Trump's got to fight tooth and nail to get them out of here. This Abrego Garcia guy, I listened to him talk about this. Just send a U.S. CIS guy down there to do the interview with him so he can get his due process, then send the guy back to the prison. He's obviously going to be deported. Or deport him back to another country. I don't really care. Just don't want him here. But he is from El Salvador. We're not deporting American citizens that are not from here. Trump would never do that, and the American people wouldn't stand for that. No matter how bad you are of an American, if you're born here, you're born here. You get sentenced here, you get prosecuted here, you get your time in front of the judge here, you get your hearings, you go to jail here. No matter how bad you are, I wouldn't be down for you being deported to an El Salvador prison if you're an American-born citizen. But that's not what's happening. Get back.
About their president, as you should, who also don't want their president taking what they think are perceived bribes. 100%. And to Chris's point that Chris we was talking about last week, how do we know that this shit can't just fall out the sky whenever they wanted to?
What does that mean?
They gave him a plan. They might.
Yeah.
Yo,
it's like, oh, you're stupid if you turn down a gift. Tell that to the Trojans. All right,
Pick your hero.
Well, not the Trojans,
I'm not
but
judging.
Yeah,
well, the Trojans got the gift from the Greeks. He's getting the gift from the Greeks.
You don't have to be a witch to find
I
the
thought the Trojans were in the
but
horse.
It does help.
That's why it's the Trojan horse was gifted.
No, I thought the Trojans controlled Troy.
Yeah.
And the Greeks gave the horse.
Oh, wow.
And then they were hiding inside the horse. There's also a chance I completely reversed that. But regardless.
Right.
They're giving him the shit. The best case scenario is it's a bribe for policy.
Yeah.
The worst case
That's the best.
is the same people who fund organizations like Hamas and other terrorist organizations.
Which is also why Shapiro and Lomas are so...
That's why Shapiro cares about it. He doesn't give a fuck for any other reason besides the fact that Qatar is... Yeah, it's like...
Back to the original question. Is this good for President Trump? Is it good for his agenda? Is it good for draining the swamp and getting things done? The answer is no, it isn't. It isn't. If you want President Trump to succeed, this kind of sleazy stuff needs to stop.
That's the thing. It's like, yeah, whatever. It's like sometimes you're going to agree with somebody on something like which I absolutely agree. You should not be accepting it. You shouldn't set a precedent that we just accept gifts and that you could potentially get influence
You need to
for
do this.
that.
Capture the
Now,
mission area.
we
Got
need
it?
to make sure that we do this with all forms of government, like when these corporations and these pharmaceutical companies do the exact same thing with every single senator and congressman. To a lesser extent, they are also bribing them, right? They are in the pockets. We make this criticism all the time. So, like, we have an ugly system set up with our elected officials, and we need to clean that up. And I think this is like a glaring example. When people showcase that they are upset about it, and I'm not just talking about just media figures. I'm talking about like the people like, if Trump feels that his constituents are pissed about this, he will back off because he listens to what they care about. If he goes, my people don't really care, he won't. But if his people are pissed, he will back off. And I think that's an important thing to understand about Trump.
Fast, and everybody left, right, center will all say this is bad. I just stop this.
I actually don't think.
No, he didn't hold fast.
No. I don't think left, right, center. So I think that a lot of like rich media figures were saying it because they were basically like looking at their portfolios and seeing stocks were dipping. And I think that like the working class Americans that were supporting Trump were like, I don't have money invested in the market. I don't give a fuck if those rich people lose money. What I want is manufacturing to come back over here. He says manufacturing to come back here if we do this tariff. And I don't think it lasted long enough for the shelves to be empty. If the shelves got empty, then you might see his...
Tremble before fire!
But the shelves didn't get empty. Inflation has gone down, and it looks like these other countries are starting to negotiate. And then
that's not what Trump cared for in that moment. What he cared about in that moment.
I won't make the same mistakes again.
It would make him move.
But I actually don't think he was that worried about that.
Oh, I do. I think for those are people he cares about.
I don't think he cares about them that much. I think that's the biggest illusion. I don't think he cares about them.
Well,
I think
here's the thing, you might be right, because he damn sure don't care about the common man either, the working man. You know who Trump cares about? The Trumps.
Okay.
That's who he cares about.
I'm not even sure he cares about them, to be honest. He cares about Trump.
I think in order for him to maintain power, he needs support. And as long as his supporters support him and there's enough of him for him to continue his agenda, he will continue to go down the path and maintain that support. Well, because you have midterms, so you can continue to control Congress, and you want to, in my estimation, if you want to, you want that legacy to continue after. And there's one version where I'm sure a lot of people look at, he just cares about him after 4 years, he's fucking done. I think there's another version where he's like, I do think that America is in disadvantageous trade relationships with other countries where we're being taken advantage of. I do think that there are too many foreign wars that we're supporting, and I think that we can have a better country and better standing in the world if we change those up. And I personally think he is trying to do that, especially with the foreign wars. That's my personal opinion.
I don't know, man. I'll be honest with you, I don't know what's going on in this country. Well, you know what I was thinking about just now? Didn't the Supreme Court pass a law where they made it to where bribery is illegal, but it's damn near impossible?
I am ready to put on a show!
This shit is gross. Yo, you don't have a super right? You guys study that more than me. Basically, like,
phone money, yeah.
Like, we all kind of know how it works, but I don't know exactly. And I think the more that we learn how it actually works, I think we would be absolutely repulsed. Like, do you have an issue with that, Chris?
Sure. I mean, who was the guy, the senator from Wisconsin, McCain teamed up with? This was probably about 10 or 15 years ago. They tried to take it on directly. Obviously, they didn't get enough support. What do you say?
Catherine's going to the whisper.
No, you didn't say what is that? I thought you said Aquaman. No.
What was the guy's name? I can't
never miss.
I can't find it right now. But yeah, I mean, I think the only thing I've only said I don't agree with you. I don't understand is how the college thing plays into it. Because they're private institutions. Like, if you want to say, I guess, Michigan State can't take money from foreign governments, sure, but
private institutions don't impact America the way an elected official.
Right. Like, it just doesn't. I don't see it the same way, I guess.
I just want people to follow the Constitution.
I think any institution, even if it's private, if you're accredited as a legit university in another country, could be swaying.
So you're an isolationist?
No, I don't think that makes me an isolationist. But I do think that we should protect what is taught in America. And I don't think that that should be potentially tainted or shifted to be more advantageous for our adversaries. And I think that is possible when you're getting funding. Like, for example, like if in like the smallest version of it, if the biggest funder for like the local police department in some city upstate is the logging company, they have an in to the police if there's any problems. Maybe they look the other way, some things happen, etc. So if that same thing is applied on a university level in America, it's not just the elite universities, but many others, all of a sudden they might teach a more empathetic version of like what's happening in the Middle East, or they might just avoid certain circumstances of what's going on there. And if I'm any of those countries, I absolutely want them to do that.
But aren't a lot of those schools getting pressured to do that now? When you have Donald Trump saying, "Hey, we're going to stop your funding if y'all keep teaching about."
There was something
y'all don't cancel your DEI programs, or if you keep teaching about
that wasn't the hang-up to me. I think it was something in their lawsuit with Harvard that was like indefensible, where I think they said something to the extent of you have to let us approve who the new I don't want to butcher this, but like there was some administrative, like the administration approving of hiring at the university level, and I think that's too far. Because you want the university, you would hope that they have the integrity to hire people that are best fit for those positions and then teach what they think is in the best interest of educating those students. And that might be critical of the current administration, and that's good. What you don't want is them to teach, hey, China's the best, Qatar's the best, UAE is the best. And if they give us $400 million there, we'll do it. You've heard about this criticism with the New York Times, where like they had somebody looked up and they found some statistic that said like 20% or 30% of their subscriptions online came from like Saudi.
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, all of a sudden the articles might be a little bit more kind towards Saudi Arabia if they're responsible for 30% of your online subscriptions. That could be completely, put that as a hypothetical.
Yeah, I would just say with colleges, the chances of the influence they have on young minds is much less than the type of potential breakthroughs that you could do in medicine or other areas with that money. So
some of that information, some of those will go to China. Exactly, because that's what
I am ready to put on a show.
Contracts that they were willing to restrict. So the administration was like, yeah, we're not going to hire Harvard for your research, right? But what if some of that research that we're paying for is now getting back to China because they're giving $200 million a year? To me, that's also a concern. It's not one.
Yeah, I think it's real.
Like another concern.
It is a concern, but that shit is not on the level.
Yeah, I mean, it's
like
pretty far down.
Sure, I agree.
Look, it was the June 2024 ruling. The Supreme Court clarified the federal anti-bribery law, stating it criminalizes bribes, payments made before an official act to influence it, but does not criminalize gratuities, gifts given after an official act. So I don't know. I don't even know if this is unconstitutional, but maybe he can't be charged for it.
The thing about this airplane that they talked about, and the airplane really is a nothing burger. I don't think actually any American really cares about this too much.